David was rear-ended in the South Loop here in Houston. He had broken ribs, herniated disc, 3 months out of work. His first question when he sat down with an attorney was the same question I hear from almost every new client. How much is my personal injury case worth in Texas? The answer he got was, it depends. No breakdown, no categories, no explanation for what that actually means in dollars. He walked out knowing less than he thought he would. That happens more often than it should. Attorneys avoid using this question because the honest answer is very complicated, and complicated makes people uncomfortable. But it depends doesn't help you decide whether to settle or fight. It doesn't tell you whether the insurance company's offer is reasonable or an insult. So I'm going to answer that question more directly. Here's what most people don't realize. The value of your case isn't one number someone pulls from a formula. It's the sum of specific legal categories, each calculated differently. And there are categories most injured Texans don't even know they can claim. The insurance company's adjusters know every single one of them. The question is whether your attorney does too, and whether you do. We're going to walk through each one of those categories. We'll also cover something that surprises most every client that I talk to. Texas does not cap most personal injury damages. That misconception has cost injured people real money. The first category is economic damages. That's the term for everything you lost financially because of the injury. The losses you can document with actual numbers. Economic damages break down into 4 parts. First, your past medical expenses. Every bill you receive for treatment connected to your injury. Emergency room, surgery, physical therapy, imaging, specialist visits, medications, every single one of those dollars. Second, future medical expenses. If your injury requires ongoing care, you can recover what that treatment will cost, even though you haven't spent the money yet. This usually requires some sort of medical testimony or other competent evidence showing a reasonable probability that you will need care in the future and what that care will cost. I've seen cases where future medical costs were the single largest line item in the entire damage calculation because the injury was permanent and the treatment plan stretched over years ahead. Third category, lost wages. The income you didn't earn because you couldn't work during your recovery. Straightforward, if you're a salaried employee with a consistency of pay history, pretty easy to calculate them. Fourth category, lost earning capacity. That's different from lost wages. Lost wages is what you missed while you recovered. Lost earning capacity is the reduction in your ability to earn money going forward caused by the injury. If you were a skilled tradesperson, a nurse, a commercial driver, and this injury means you can no longer perform the same work at the same level, the economic value of that gap is a compensable loss, if you can calculate it. That number can be very substantial. You have the right expert to calculate it. Economic damages are the foundation. Every case has them. They are rarely the whole story. The second category is non-economic damages. These are real losses that don't come with a receipt. Non-economic damages cover the human cost of an injury. Pain and suffering, the most familiar term. That's the physical pain you've endured and will continue to endure because of what happened. Mental anguish is related, but it's distinct. It's not the same thing. That's the psychological weight, the anxiety, the depression, the disrupted sleep, the traumatic response. If this accident changed how you move through your own life emotionally, that is a compensable loss under Texas law. And often, that's the one that really affects you far more than any medical bill. There's also something called loss of consortium. That applies when your injury affects your relationship with your spouse. The companionship, the support, the ordinary shared life of a marriage. That's been damaged by the injury, and you can document that. Your spouse may have a separate claim. Non-economic damages are where the numbers can vary most from case to case. Texas law does not require any kind of standard multiplier or fixed formula like you may read online. Courts and juries weigh the nature of this injury and its permanence, its effect on your life. An injury that looks modest on a medical bill can produce significant non-economic damages if it permanently changes what you're able to do and how you will feel when you are doing these things. And a third category doesn't apply in most cases, but when it does, it changes everything, and that's punitive damages. They are also called exemplary damages in Texas. These are not designed to compensate. They're designed to punish the defendant. Texas allows exemplary damages when a defendant acts with gross negligence or malicious intent. Gross negligence means they were aware of an extreme degree of risk and proceeded anyway with conscious disregard for the safety of others. A company that ignored documented safety violations for years. A driver who was drag racing on a public street. Someone operating a vehicle with a prior DWI on their record and now here they are drunk again. These are the scenarios where exemplary damages may become part of the conversation. They're not the everyday case, but they are real, and they can significantly increase what a case is worth in total. Now let's talk about what moves the number up. The factors that increase a case's in value are severity, permanence of injury. A wrist fracture that healed completely is a different case than a herniated disc or a spinal injury that requires fusion. If your injury is permanent, that fact should run through every single category of damages. Clear liability. When the fault of the other party is obvious and well documented, the defense has limited room to argue. Strong medical documentation. You need a consistent medical record that connects the accident directly to the injuries and establishes the treatment required, and a defendant with real insurance coverage. The strongest case in the world is limited by what's actually collectible. And then the factors that push the number down. Let's talk about those. Gaps in medical care. If you stop treating for 2 or 3 months and then resumed, the defense will argue that your injury just wasn't serious enough to require continuous treatment. If you'd been hurt, you kept going. That's what they'll argue. Pre-existing conditions. If you had a prior back injury and this accident affected the same area, the defense will argue the condition predates their incident. That doesn't automatically eliminate your recovery, but it becomes a fight that you have to win. Comparative fault. Texas uses a modified comparative negligence rule. If you're found more than 50% responsible for the accident, you cannot recover at all. If you are found partially at fault below that threshold, your damages are reduced by the percentage of fault assigned to you by the jury. An uninsured or uninsured defendant. Coverage limitations are real ceiling regardless of what the liability number says. One more thing, because this question comes up almost in every consultation. Do Texas damages caps apply to personal injury cases? For standard personal injury cases, no. Texas does not cap economic damages or non-economic damages in a car accident, a workplace injury, or a slip and fall type case. The caps that exist under Texas law apply specifically to medical malpractice claims under a separate statute that governs healthcare liability in Texas. If someone told you Texas limits what you can recover in a personal injury case, they may be thinking of that med-mal context. In a standard injury case, however, your compensatory damages, your medical bills, your lost wages, pain and suffering, are generally not capped by statute. Exemplary damages, which are rare, have their own separate caps and rules under Texas law, but those are a whole different category. Ultimately, the number your case is worth depends on how well it's built and how aggressively it's pursued. That's our job, the lawyers. One more thing before you go. Knowing what your case is worth doesn't help you if the clock's already run out. Watch our video on Texas statute limitations. That covers how long you got to file a personal injury claim in Texas. That way you make sure you're still inside the window. If you're trying to figure out what your own situation might actually be worth, this is a question worth talking to a lawyer about. Find a lawyer who actually handles these cases, so none of these damages get left out or left on the table. You can also get second opinions. Sometimes lawyers disagree about what damages apply. I'm Paul Cannon. I'm a board-certified personal injury lawyer in Texas, and I'm the managing partner at Simmons and Fletcher in Houston. What are the part of the injury claims process that feels most confusing or frustrating to you? Drop it in the comments. I'll do my best to get you all the answers.